Hey everybody, welcome back. Today it's Monday, family day here in BC, and it's going to be Monday all day. Jay and I are here on the Magna Search Group.tv network. You're on Big Game Hunters. This is Jay Berard. My name's Michael Flint. Today we're talking part 3 of a 3-part series, robots, and what's happening with respect to them taking over your job this year. Jay.
Okay, yeah, so we wanted to continue the robot talk because we got a lot of robo talk back to us from the last 2 episodes.
We have.
Talked a lot about the big technology this year. Well, now we're talking about, last week we talked about the roles, the jobs that have already gotten taken over by robots. And now we want to talk about where they're most likely going to be taking over in sort of a mass scale.
Blue collar and white collar jobs, basically.
Yeah. Blue collar and white collar jobs. Yeah. So we've got a comprehensive list that we've built and we want to share it with you. If this is you, don't be scared yet. Don't be alarmed. But we do think that it's coming, and I think it's coming a lot sooner than people actually realize.
Well, I mean, in many ways, it comes down to efficiencies and, of course, cost savings. Being able to do the job, without human error. Work safe is a big focal point, for construction sites. One of the ones that has come to the foreground is electrical and manufacturing assemblers. So you see it on production lines. We're going to see more and more of it. But it's just, being able to come in, diagnose what's happening, and put that continuity behind the processes is where this is being driven from.
I think one of the big things too that you need to focus on in terms of realizing this in the future is robots are not just necessarily taking over things that are manual labor or what have you. Where robots are really going to come into play is where data-driven activities can be optimized. So for example, in mechanical assembling, if things have to be assembled to a T or to a certain measurement, and there's a robot in place that can do that, then you completely take human error out of the equation. So fast forward to construction, for example, I think that people will be using virtual reality and looking at actually placing things together before they're actually built. Now, if you could have virtual reality for us to help you assemble something a bit better, and I'm talking big scale construction or electrical assembly. What happens then if you have a robot that can also read through the virtual reality type of feel where it can understand spatial planning and understand all of the little pieces that need to go in place perfectly through the data that's given to it so that it can create something completely seamless and flawless every single time?
Yeah, and I see that.
So that's across the board.
That's across the board.
Assembly, manufacturing, it's already like mass scale operations have happened.
Yep.
But I also think that robots will be able to create a better economies of scale. They'll be able to make things more efficient, and the machines are going to cost less and less and less and less as it goes down. But that's just for mechanical assembly. Another one is, interestingly enough, is postal workers. I
have no idea who my dog is going to chase if this happens, but I can see it happening. Robots and machines, they can sort mail. Snail mail's on I guess the downslope.
All you need is instead of a stamp, you've got a barcode. There, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And then it goes, okay, well the robot goes there, right? Robot goes there.
Well, and you're right. I mean, there's a move, at least here in Canada, to kind of centralize mail delivery. Instead of home delivery service, they have centralized mailboxes. It's going to continue to be something that you see automation in, for sure, without question, because we have the tools to do that. It's about sorting, it's about organization, and it's about consistent prompt delivery.
I will say though, we talk about postal workers and how you'll never lose mail again, but if we've built robots and you're still sending mail, I don't know if that really works anymore. Just saying, if we've built robots and you're still firing out that mail, and not even just from like a nostalgic perspective, like sending a birthday card. I'm saying you're sending out mail.
Yeah, but it's pretty exciting when you get a piece of mail and it's got your name on it. It's got a handwritten.
Do you know how many letters I've missed that you're like, hey man, like you missed. You
haven't paid your parking ticket?
Yeah. Oh, I'm bad with that. I don't think
those aren't letters.
I don't think you have
those are notices.
Yeah, those are notices. You know how many notices I haven't noticed?
Yeah.
Because it comes in the mail. Send me an email, man.
Yeah, it's text message. I can't even get through my emails.
Send me a text. Snapchat me.
Look, cashiers, they're on their way out. You've all been to the Canadian Tire.
Easy.
You've been to grocery stores. They have those self-service checkouts.
Easy.
You're supposed to take your fruit out of the bag, put it on the scale, figure out exactly what it is. I think robots are going to take the guessing game out of it. They'll be able to quickly scan what it is, organic, not organic, how many pieces of fruit, do a visual kind of like scan of it, give you the weight, ring it through, you bag your own groceries. and you pay for your own grocery bags.
Yeah, I think another one too that's really important is bookkeeping and secretaries and even just everyday assistants.
Yeah.
Because again, data-driven activities. If you, for example, were telling Siri that remind me to call Mike at 9 a.m. on Tuesday. If your whole life was synced and integrated into an operating system, for example, a personal assistant robot or whatever it may be, then again, you're not going to have any human error of someone missing a date or anything like that. The only one would be your manual input if you had to.
Yeah.
So any sort of those kinds of positions, reception, admin assistants, bookkeeping is number driven. Bookkeeping is number driven. I almost missed that twice because I was stuttering. See, sometimes I think I'm a robot.
There's a virtual assistant out there called Amy. I believe she's technically in New York, but effectively what you do is you sign onto the service, you open up your calendar. If you're trying to coordinate with a business associate or a client or whatever it might be in terms of coordinating a calendar type meeting, they'll go into your calendar, they'll offer 3 dates. The other person on the other side will give a couple options, and it all happens automatically under your company URL. So it happens seamlessly. But Amy, she must handle, I don't know how many executives across the United States and Canada, but it's all automated.
Yes, because it makes sense, right?
Yep.
It's simple and it's cost effective. And I think, some more untraditional types of roles that we'll see people that we've heard of robots going to take over is a fashion model. And you go, wait a second.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Wait a second. Like a fashion model, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Robo-thespian.
But what does make sense is if, for example, if it's in a designer's best interest to showcase their fashion based on a certain body type, right? We're just saying hypothetically.
Well, no, it's happening.
Yeah,
it's going to happen.
But then if you can create the perfect body type, and you can create the perfect walk, and take out the human element from it, and it still works, people will see what that clothing is supposed to look like, just like we look at it now.
Yeah, it's called Photoshop, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But, I think one of the things that we've already noticed and we talked about last week, which got a lot of dialogue, is the drivers.
Yeah.
Robotic drivers, self-driving cars, that's a robot. That's artificial intelligence. That's a little bit of the three things combined into one. And I think the most interesting part about that is we just got Ubered. Like the world just got Uberized or Ubered or whatever you want to call it. Like Uber came to the scene, 3 to 4 years ago, really? And then it became everything is now, it's even its own noun and verb or whatever you want to call it. And everyone's talking about, wow, is Uber going to replace taxi drivers? Because a lot of taxi drivers that aren't owners will go and drive an Uber because it's better for them.
They're going to make more money.
But now, if we have self-driving cars, are they going to replace the Uber drivers, which then replace the taxi drivers?
Yes, I think the answer
so then
to that is yes.
what does this big pool of talent do? Do we find more jobs? Do we get so efficient in our robotic ways that we even need jobs? Do we need money to do things, or is everything going to be so cost effective?
No, listen, the world's always going to be capitalistic, and I think you can't. I mean, yes, you gotta look towards emerging industries, and yes, there needs to be dialogue and conversation about, okay, if this industry dies and it's taken over, by robotics, what are these displaced workers going to do? And I think there's a lot of individual responsibility in, finding out what you're passionate about, pursuing your dream. I don't believe that society owes people a job. I think that there's an opportunity for individuals to, carve out their niche and follow their passion.
It's true. It is actually very true. There'll be more freedom, more time, more opportunity to do that. Maybe.
If you look at what society will value, they're always going to value that creativity, culture. Okay, that's a broad term, but really at the end of the day, we should have an opportunity to allow our lives to be enriched, and maybe we have more spare time, to do different things. You take a page out of the book of the people in France and make it a 30-hour work week.
Yeah, no, literally. I thought another interesting one that we found on our list was referees and umpires. And the reason we say that is, already in tennis, there's the Hawkeye robot, which whenever you watch tennis and someone does the challenge and everyone claps, they can show you exactly where a tennis ball lands. So at that point, really, if we have a robotic system that is foolproof in terms of judging those things, you have something that's completely unbiased in professional sports. And maybe that's just limited to tennis, but, a ref is supposed to be as objective as possible, or an umpire is supposed to be as objective as possible. And
it's about getting the call right.
I'm sure that 99.9% of them are. But we've heard of stories of people of referees in the NBA. We've heard those things, and if you can automate what gets called and what doesn't, I don't think the NBA could ever have a robot because this is a foul, right? You can't really. Those are if you could detect that, like who knows?
That was worth 20 games to Dennis Weidman today.
Yeah, exactly.
20
right?
games,
and Dennis Weidman gets 20 games. Like try cross checking a robot. He's not going to go down.
Listen, the number one job that's being replaced by robots, and you probably know this already, it's telemarketers. They're already calling. It's not a real person. You didn't win that trip to Las Vegas or that cruise, through WestJet or whatever it might be.
I got scammed so much money.
The bottom line is those are robots already calling you. It's not a real person.
I hear the horn. You've won a cruise. I'm like, yeah, I won a cruise, and I go through the whole process, and then my credit card gets maxed out the next day. It's definitely no fun.
Awesome. Listen, it's not all bad news. There are always going to be elements in the workforce in which people will be front and center. Any elements of social dynamic, so if it's a social worker or if it's, personalized service, if it's drug and alcohol counseling, if it's something that requires a human touch, any empathy, those type of roles will always be
unless we advance it to a point where we can build empathetic robots and people who can like we talked about. I've said it. This is my third time in a row. Sense what a human is feeling, and if you can build that, then who knows. And
next week on the Twilight Zone, we'll be speaking.
We're going to talk about robots one more time.
We're done. The robots are over.
On the next episode, we're going to build a robot on the studio because we're the guys that can do it. If you believe it, we'll see you next week. It's a Big Game Hunters. Michael Flint, Jason Berard. Thanks for tuning in. Please let us know if we've missed anything. If you've seen robotic applications in any jobs, I'd love to know where they already are and where they're going to continue to go because, we're in the recruitment business and it's definitely something that we find interesting. So, Big Game Hunters, MagnaOnAir, check us out on LinkedIn, YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher Radio.
Enjoy your family day.
Enjoy your family day in BC. Salud. I don't know why I said saloom. I don't know what that means. It was shalom and salud.